Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Kay, and I'm here today to discuss Beyond the Gate, Season 2, Episode 138. Okay, y'all, so y'all know how you go somewhere or you go to an event and they got all the food laid out and your eyes is just bigger than your stomach. And so you walking down the line and you like, I'm gonna get that, and you fill up your plate and then you just take your time and savor each morsel. That's what I felt like when I was watching today's episode. It was so, just random piece of hair. It was so many things going on in this episode and so many laying downs of the foundations. I was just like, wow, how am I really going to dissect this episode the way that I need to? Because there was so many moving parts. I just wanted to start off by saying Vanessa cannot be trusted. Because not only is Vanessa trying to watch out for Randy, Vanessa's trying to, be with Joey, and she's trying to be loyal to the Duprees. So she sat there in that little table situation with Anita and Danny. Danny's supposed to be one of her best friends, by the way. Getting that information and wondering how they trying to put together the pieces about Randy. And then it comes out that he's been going around town with Haley. Now, unbeknownst to Vanessa, because Vanessa don't know Randy that way, she wouldn't know anything about Doug's past, which is why when she went to go sit down with Randy, Randy had to give her a smidget of what made him and Doug so close. Now, to me, if you married to somebody, you would know who their best friend is, and you would know a lot about their best friend's life because, again, that is your spouse's best friend. But it didn't seem like that was the case for Vanessa, so she learned something to me that was new to her when she went and sat down with Randy. But nonetheless, she learned that Randy has been running around town and being seen with Haley. Unbeknownst to them, he's a con man, and Haley is his cousin. But nonetheless, he's been seen around town. So if word around town gets around that you've been around with Haley, and that's just your cousin, and now people think that y'all are entangling, you know what I mean? And, Vanessa then throws out that Joey isn't the only powerful man in this city that has connections. And she brings up Bill. I was just like, oh, is this foreshadowing? Is Bill about to find out about Randy and then this gonna go twisted? Because I feel like this is about to get twisted. And then also in that sit down with Anita and Danny, Vanessa also and Danny also finds out, because Anita shares with them, because we as the audience saw it, that Haley was in the closet during the tornado with Kyle Abbott. So if they thought that Haley was having an affair, they was trying to say, oh, well, we wouldn't put it past her being with Randy. But then again, she typically goes after men with money, and Kyle Abbott is one of those men with money. And as we saw, her and Kyle had, an interesting dynamic that night, right? Right. So I was just like, ooh, the tea keeps getting unfolded. And so then, not only that, Kat that same day saw Randy at Orphy Jeans with Deanna. He also saw Randy at Orphy Jeans with Mona. And so, of course, after Kat and Mona have their little, whoop-de-doo, and then Mona sits down with Randy and they have their little conversation, of course. Where does Kat go to get intel, of course? She's trying to figure out what Randy's real name is and what is his relation to Mona and why they cool. At this point, it's a whole lot of storylines and plots crossing and twisting up this episode. So then come to find out while Mona is over there sitting at that table with Randy, I'm trying to figure out if Mona and Randy is playing will they, won't they? Is Mona really trying to be a lady of the cloth or a lady of the Lord? Mona trying to be a lady of the Lord and, you know, help save Randy, redeem him, have him come to Jesus? Or is there a romance going on? I don't know, because it feels like they're trying to give us romantic vibes. And especially at this table, it was giving romantic vibes. Or I don't know, like if she's drawn to Randy because she's attracted to him. I don't know what's going on. But nonetheless, Kat asked Mona. And Mona was like, girl, you barking up the wrong tree. I don't want that man. So I'm just like, do you want that man or do you not want that man? Because I'm trying to figure it out. And I think the rest of the audience is trying to figure it out. Okay? So then, let's see. Chelsea and Naomi are at her house still talking. Haley pops up. Haley pops up at the apartment and they're trying to figure out why Haley is there. And so Haley tells them that, you know, of course, she apologizes and that, you know, she think it would be best if they just, you know, gave her and her father, you know, the courtesy of calling. She was like, also, I didn't want y'all just popping up because what if me and your father decide that we want to love on each other at the moment? And they both was like grossed out by that. But then what does Naomi do? Extends Haley the same courtesy that she gave them and kicks her out of her apartment. Well, the tide turned quickly now, didn't it? Bill, okay, before I get to Bill, now we still are like in the aftermaths of Danny leaving them shades over at Bill's house. Now, Danny also had a conversation with Vanessa about whether or not she possibly purposefully left them shades over there. And so Haley is fuming because, of course, as long as Danny is around, you know, Haley don't really care if Bill and Danny, you know, doing what they doing. But she cares about, you know, her infiltrating her plan, which is to get Bill, you know, to his afterlife and for her to get her payout. So if Danny keeps coming around and meddling, that's going to take Haley and Randy further away from their plan, right? So she's fuming. Danny figures out the glasses are over there. Vanessa and Danny have a conversation. And of course, Vanessa, unwise counsel, tells Danny that she's getting a thrill out of going over there to see Bill. And basically, she was just like, no, it was an honest mistake. Them glasses came out, which we know it was a mistake. But it was just the fact that Vanessa was trying to dig, to me, into Danny's subconscious, trying to figure out what was Danny's real feelings or whatever. If Danny still, but she ends up saying that Danny just wanted to ruffle Haley's feathers, you know, and make her upset. Well, she is making her upset. And so now Haley's probably going to go back to the drawing board. But while they're talking about that, Anita walks up and was like, Danny, what was an accident? And then that's when Danny tells Anita that she went to Bill's house because the girls called her and told her that Haley put them out. And then Anita was like, oh, no, she didn't. And she was like, girl, yes, she did. And that's when they had that whole tea session. But this whole thing with Mona going to Joey to play Joey for cards for Randy's soul, just to see. And now Randy getting caught up. Randy done got caught up on 3 different sides because Mona going to Joey now done got Joey caught up, and it's making people pay attention to Randy. And you know Joey hates when people bring attention to anything that he's doing to make his block hot. He don't play that. He don't play about his block being made hot. Then Randy is now on the radar with Kat and the gang. And now Randy is finna be on the radar. Well, Randy is on the radar with Vanessa. So I'm just like, it is not quiet on the creek. It is indeed loud, Randy. You're screaming. You're loud and you're giving off a particular aroma. And people are not going to be pleased with you. People are not going to be pleased with you, Randy. And so here we are. After Danny has gotten her tea session. Kat has got her intel and has told Chelsea and Naomi she coming back out over there. I just knew that Haley had stood behind that door and was listening. And she still could have it. We just not have seen it. But unbeknownst to us, we don't know where Haley exactly went when she left the apartment. But Danny then comes to the apartment to tell the girls basically about Doug and Randy being best friends and they growing up in Philly together. And we also come to find out, learned about Doug's history a little bit. So Doug grew up in Philly, but him and his family moved to the DMV in order for him to pursue his medical career dreams, right? And come to find out that when Doug and Randy were younger, Doug helped save Randy's life because they got into a fight and then Randy was pew-pewed and he thought he was about to leave this life. And Doug basically stayed with him. And so he said when he woke up in the hospital, he saw that Doug had, all his blood over him and had his books and everything. And that, he stayed with him the whole time and didn't leave his side. And that's what made them really become closer. And so from listening to Vanessa talk to Randy today, it had me thinking like, we knew that Randy knew that Doug, was involved with Joey and that he owed Joey some money. But Randy also tried to, look out for Doug. So with Doug's, demise, Randy is going to get closer and closer to finding out that Joey was the one who took Doug out and he may be the one to eventually take Joey out. The web is just weaving. It's just weaving. And none of this could be true, but this is just all what, I started thinking about as I'm watching the episode, right? And so I'm just like, Vanessa, you mole. You went and told, you're getting intel from all these different sides and going to tell people. But if you received intel about the Duprees, about any of that, would you go and tell them about any of that? Anything could pertain to them, would you go and tell them that? Because it seems like you're going to tell everybody else every other thing. Also, during this whole, everybody going to the casino thing, Bill decides to leave the house and go have a conversation with Joey. And specifically, Bill was questioning like his mortality and who would take care of his family in the event that, something happened to him. And you know what? With the situation with Bill, I'm thinking, like how Vernon went to Bill and was like, if something was to happen to this family, we're enlisting you to do X, Y, and Z because we know that with you, you're going to do X, Y, Z and you're going to make sure X, Y, Z gets done. Well, Bill didn't do that to nobody in his family. He went to Joey and asked Joey, could you look out for my family? And so I'm like, here it is again. Somebody is going to Joey on behalf of asking the favor of looking out for their family. That reminded me of how Joey told Elon that he would look out for his family and he would make sure that nothing would happen to Jacob. Also, he's making sure nothing happens to Isaiah. So now we got Bill asking to protect his family, Duprees.
This is a reminder. Read Psalms 121. This is a reminder. Read Psalms 121.
And so I'm just like, wow. You know what I mean? Wow. It's just so many pieces and so many things are connecting. I'm just like, ugh. Bill really asked, and then Joey asked Bill if he was to go before him, will he watch out for Vanessa? And I'm just like, that kind of is giving me that whole thing of what I thought about maybe Randy will be the one to take Joey out. Yeah. I don't know. It's a lot of moving parts. And then I'm just like, they getting down to the bottom on Haley because they like, well, how else would Haley know Sammy? They was like, well, they meaning Kat and gang was at Naomi's apartment saying, oh, well, if Randy is from Philadelphia, they was like, oh my God, Haley's from Philadelphia. So now, what if we find out that Doug and Haley and Randy was running the streets together? Oh Lord, I feel like I'm all over the place with this review, but that's how I felt watching it, all over the place, because I'm just like, well, dog. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, wow. I think Haley is going to be the one to get busted. Randy's going to be the one to be able to cover his tracks. And Mona is going to be the reason why Randy is able to cover his tracks and not so much Haley. I think Mona may end up being Randy's saving grace when all of this unfolds. Because could I imagine Haley giving Randy up? I can't. Or because everything is going on, will Haley end up getting rid of Randy on her own? You just never know. And so now that Danny is doing all of this, I wonder if she eventually gonna say something to Bill. You just never know. Or would Naomi be the one to do it? Because also we found out a vital piece of information as well. Naomi said that when she drew up her marital papers for Jacob, Bill included a morality clause that if he was to have an affair on Naomi, he would get nothing. And so they was wondering if that same thing was in Haley's papers, or if Haley even got some papers, because they think right now Haley is having an affair with Randy. And in the beginning, Randy told Joey that he was seeing Haley. So this all is just going to be a mess, especially if all of this gets back. Oh, so many stories. So many stories. But yeah, y'all, I think that's my review. What did y'all think about episode 138? Let me know your comments down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you hadn't already, please go back and look at last week's Beyond the Gates reviews if you hadn't, in my Beyond the Gates playlist. Also, if you are starting to watch The Chi, or if you are binge watching season 8, or if you even rewatching The Chi, check out my Chi playlist. Also, if you are partaking in All American season 8 and you haven't watched my reviews, go and watch my All American season 8 reviews as well. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back with more videos. Deuces.